Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Sergeant Friday, with your Ass Hurts News Network. I'm going to give it a few minutes to see if it populates, get a few people going. Let's see. We're broadcasting across X, Rumble, which I have a whopping 52 followers. I have so many followers at Rumble that I've got to chase them down. Oh, I am doing extremely well there. What? Let me ask people, what is this helmet that shows up in the chat now? I don't know what these helmets are. There's number one, number two. What do those helmets mean? Me, myself, and I, and Thomas Sharp in the YouTube chat there. Quite baffling to me. Something's happening. Some conspiracy afloat. Oh, yeah, I've taken some time off. I wanted to relax. Tonight's show will be Fact, Fiction, or Addiction, the Idaho Four. I'm number one. Me, myself, I don't know. What does it count? Does it count when people come in? It says me, myself, and I is number one, and Sharp is number two. Yeah, it shows something. Who entered the chat first or something? I don't know. It's very strange, man. Very strange. I don't know what the hell it means. Looks like a king's helmet. And, I'll tell you, I live up in the Northeast in a part of New York. And it was quite warm. We had a good last week. I took last week off. Just decided to chill and relax. DW is number two. Thomas Sharp was number two. So these things make no sense. What are these numbered helmets that are showing up here in YouTube? What the hell is it? Yeah, when I'm in other people's chats, it shows up. Let's see if it shows up now. No, because I'm the host. I get shit because I'm the host. Shit and shinola. But yeah. Fact, fiction, or addiction. Oh, yeah. It's kind of cray-cray what we're going through here with this Idaho Four. Let's see. I got to, man. Good old Ashley. Are you going to be done by 10 o'clock? Unbelievable. Probably not. Now, because you're clocking me, because you're rushing me, because you're putting me under your social pressure. I'm not having it. Miss JC, well, I said 9 o'clock. I never said 8 o'clock. I think you misunderstood, you misheard, and rarely is old Sergeant Friday wrong. Did you watch the one night? No, I'm not gonna give them any views on their opinion on what happened in Idaho. You know, and it's a tough thing, folks. It's a tough ending to a very, very extraordinarily fucking insane case. And I don't think there's any winners or losers in here, except that all the American people lost when it came to that case. Oh, okay. Yeah, then it would be 8 where you are. Yeah, it's hard, folks, to set it down because it's been a part of everybody's life for 32 months, at least for a big majority of people on the use of tubes, right? Yeah, even if the gag order's lifted, I'm not so sure that they're gonna allow anything to come forward that would do any damage to the state of Idaho. So, I mean, this entire case is a clusterfuck. It ended with the accused taking responsibility for the crime. And I mean, and all the things that we can point to, like I was on Dago's show earlier, I don't know what to say other than there's a lot of ways to look at this. And you really can't dispute the kid accepted responsibility. Yeah, this case, I was part of YouTube, but this case brought me to true crime. This was my first foray into true crime simply because the probable cause affidavit was about as much probable causes as sand is water. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous that probable cause affidavit. So that's what got my attention. That's what brought me to true crime. I was political before this, 100% in politics, and Go to figure that the case that attracts my attention was railroading somebody that probably had nothing to do with the accusations laid at their feet. Um, but it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, damn, I don't know. You're 30 years old. You could live to be 80. You're going to spend 50 years in jail. I really don't know how that is a win for the defendant. I don't think death is something you should welcome, but I think it's going to come to all of us sooner or later. It's going to come to all of us sooner or later, and I don't think it's something that he should have hid from. It is what it is. He made his choice. It's not a choice I would have made, even if he knows he did the crime. There's no way I would have made that choice to accept a plea bargain, take responsibility for it, and even worse if he didn't do it. If he didn't do it, there's just nothing you could say to me that could get me to understand somebody accepting that. And then I don't even know, man. It's perplexing. I'm drinking some Sunny D. Not a sponsor nor a representation for that product, but the Tangy Original. 80% vitamin C, and it tastes real good. And it's cheaper than my favorite drink of root beer. Yeah, I would have tested my luck at trial, regardless of my guilt or innocence, because the bottom line is that was the next step in the phasing. And regardless of how much Hitler tried to prevent you from defending yourself, if you're a very smart attorney and you're paying attention to the proceedings, there's things that are going to be said by those people that are impugning you. They're going to open up line of questionings that even the judge may have originally, in their direct shape, would not allow. But if a line of questioning is opened by the prosecution, a door can be opened to which was actually closed to you, and then the prosecution opens that door. There's no way I would have accepted any plea. Listen, I'll tell you guys something for truth. There's things I did wrong that I wouldn't accept a plea for, and I got punished for it. There's things I accepted a plea for. I got punished for it. But I will say this, that more often than not, when you make the system play the systems by the rules, I won more than I lost. I won more than I lost. And every one of these fucking attorneys, even ones you're paying, are always trying to push you to make a plea deal. Just no matter what you did. And in the one instance, here's the best fucking thing. Listen, the best fucking thing in the world was I literally committed a crime. There literally were Polaroid pictures of me doing the crime. And they literally would not prosecute me because the person in the picture with me refused to testify in any way. Therefore, the picture was a picture of just some guy. Happened to be me. And the alleged and the accused crime was not prosecutable without the person that I was interacting with, right? And I demanded that they find me guilty. I admitted to the crime, and they didn't want to prosecute me because this is what I mean. The law is not as straightforward as people think it is. It's pretty fucked up. And the fact of the matter is that my demanding to be found guilty, that I admit guilt to the crime, the judge wasn't even sure if he could accept that fucking because there was no case. The prosecutor had no evidence to bring a case against me. If everybody forced a pretrial hearing, right, you'd be amazed at how many of these people would get off, even the ones that committed the crime. If everybody held their ground and said, take me to trial, I don't care what kind of a backlog or jam the fucking prosecution gets. Fuck you. That's your problem, right? And that's something the American population we've been kind of whittled down to the point to just let things go the way they go. And You go along to get along. And when it comes to legal matters, that's just no way to deal with things in life that become part of a legal system. You have to hold your ground. And I think what Brian Koberger did was not only unconscionable for himself, but I think it was unconscionable to the greater public that he performed a massive disservice to society as a whole by doing what he did with that plea bargain, regardless of whether he committed the crime or not. It just shouldn't. He just should not have. Uh, and the fact the state even allowed a plea bargain is very telling. That says more than Brian accepting it in some aspects. Yeah, but so what if it happens fast? Here's the thing though: you get to appeal, and if you did do it, that's one thing. You roll the dice and see what happens. But the idea to stay alive for the next 50 years in some kind of federal penitentiary or state penitentiary is like, I don't know. I guess to each their own. But also in this case, there was so much wrong with this case. There was so much unreasonable arguments and pieces of evidence that weren't evidence at all. And the idea that even with Judge Hippler doing what Judge Hippler did would have prevented him from being acquitted in front of a jury is just laughable, in my opinion. And I know that many lawyers out there, and I tell you what, trust me when I tell you this. My observations, which are generally contrary, oftentimes, to the actual legal beagles that have got their degrees, I've been more often right than they've been. They're taught to work within the system as the system is. And they don't see the wrong in the system as the system is because they are the system. Do you understand? It's like a teapot doesn't know it has a hole in it. Put a hole in the teapot. The teapot's no wiser to the hole than if it didn't have a hole. It's only going to do what it's going to do, and it doesn't really know what it should know because it's a teapot. And when you're part of the system that this unfortunately has been set up in parts of this country when it comes to law enforcement and legal affairs and political, they're all part of the fucking teapot. And so they don't have this capacity to look inward and realize that the problem with the system is the system itself. And the problem with the system is the people that operate within the system and are part of the system and make the system as the system is. You hand your training and your particular points of view and your understandings off to the next generation, not realizing that what you're handing the next generation is a bunch of fucking bullshit. And you accepted that bullshit, right? As I've always said, the difference between being a child and being an adult is learning and accepting everybody lies. And be a liar yourself. That's what separates adulthood from childhood. So, in this particular situation with Brian Koberger, as I've always said, I don't know if he did it or not. And that was never really important to me, as to whether he did it or not. What really was important to me was the facts that the state was offering up were not facts that would convict the person in the court of law to their presence at the crime scene. And they had to place him at the crime scene. And for people to think DNA alone is all you need, you're just stupid. That's just not true. If that were true, folks, this mysterious white car, this mysterious bullshit about phones and phone pings and wouldn't be a part of the case. They simply would have went to court and said, here's his DNA, shoot him. Literally, that would be if DNA was as powerful as people really attribute it to be. It's only powerful in the minds of the inept. Those that watch these crime shows and these NCIS shows, and they don't understand that one statistical analysis of the DNA samples will look like A to you, and to two or three other doctors, they look like B, C, and D. Because DNA is basically a statistical analysis. And yes, you can make a statistical analysis that is so one-sided that the probability of it being anyone else is not real. I get that. But not all DNA is done that way. Not every sample, not every scientist. Go look at all the cases where there's tens of thousands. What is there, 30,000 of them in one state, in Indiana or somewhere? 30,000 cases that were fucked up with the DNA by the DNA lab, by the person that worked those cases in those labs. That they've realized that if they manipulate the DNA, they get a long way in their argument that this is the committer of the crime. And that's the problem, is the criminal is both the person you captured, the murderer, the criminal, the drug dealer. Those people are obvious criminals, but the other criminality is within the system and the people that deal with the evidence and the information collection. They're committing crimes, but they don't think they're committing crimes because they're doing it for the right reasons. And yet, if you were to stand in the shoes of the other guy that doesn't speak good English, that doesn't know any better, that can't get any kind of a fucking job, that's out there selling drugs, he's doing it for a good reason too, so that he can eat, his wife can eat, his kids can eat. So, I mean, where do you draw the fucking line between criminal and good guy? The good guy's motive is, in other words, is no better than the fucking bad guy's motive. The bad guy's motive may simply be he wants a faster, bigger, fucking prettier car with better rims. Oh, how terrible. But therefore, when you look at the police end of it, the corruption inside of there, where they need to get these convictions so they can have a bigger house, more fucking pats on the back, more promotions, more. What's the difference? The criminal, see, you can't really put a difference between any crime, regardless of what the motive of doing it is. And that's what's happened to our legal system. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. These prosecuting attorneys go on to be governors and mayors and different things of different locales based on their record of prosecution. How I was tough on crime. And how were you tough on crime? Because you allowed the people that enforced the crime, found the crime, and prosecuted the crime to commit crimes to get the conviction numbers that you're a part of. But nobody really wants to address or point that out or talk about that. I mean, the Kohberger crime, the Kohberger case, mimics, if you really want to be honest, it mimics what they did. And the best example, and I'm not going to get into politics, but this is a perfect example, mimics what they did to Donald Trump. They charged the fucking guy with 93 felonies, none of which were actually felonies. Imagine kicking in the door of a fucking former president and going through his wife's fucking lingerie drawer and going through his kids' fucking closets and then accuse him of a crime that isn't a crime. Imagine that. Just imagine that. And then look what they did to Brian Kohberger. They did the same fucking thing to Brian Kohberger. They set this kid up to be swatted. I said that a long time ago. The way they handled his arrest is the same way they handled Brent Kopacka's arrest. The difference between Brian Kohberger and Brent Kopacka is Brian Kohberger didn't resist or try to hide. He made himself available to the arresting officers. Otherwise, I'm relatively confident Brian Kohberger would have been shot and killed in his parents' home. So there's a lot of problems with the case, but there's societal problems, there's justice system problems, and they're problems that we see, we complain, we entertain ourselves with, but we never get together to fix them. That's the most amazing fucking thing. Throughout this whole process, we were outraged in what we saw. No, he's not a convicted criminal. Trump's not a convicted criminal, Good Trouble, but I know that you believe that. But the fact of the matter is, no, he lost a civil case. And all of these so-called crimes that they accused him of, in appeal court and appellate courts have all been overturned and thrown out. He's not been convicted of any crime. And the one thing that you're going to argue convicted him of a crime is that woman that accused him of touching her. And that's going to get turned down too. The case with the $400 million, gone. The raids at his property in Mar-a-Lago, those crimes that were charged, all gone. They were not crimes. I'm sorry. And here's the thing. If you can't separate yourself from personal feelings and beliefs and only look at the facts, if you're incapable of doing that, you just got to go. Now, I will agree with you with George Floyd. George Floyd, no cop should have kept his... If that's the guy that got killed with the cop's knee on his fucking neck, that cop should have been arrested and prosecuted for that. I don't care how many drugs he did or how many crimes he committed or what kind of a scumbag he was. Nobody has the fucking right to put you under their fucking knee for 10 minutes and expect no harm to come to you. Sorry. I think that cop should have been prosecuted. I agree with Black Lives Matter on the argument that the corruption is systemic. It's systemic. It's throughout the entire system. And I explained that if you were here in the beginning of the stream, that they keep doing things and they keep perpetuating these injustices and turning them over and training people. So, you spend your whole life as a career as a lawyer, and then the next one's coming up into the field are taught what you know and what you were doing. And a lot of what they do in law enforcement, a lot of what they do in the prosecutions is absolutely criminal. And it's not just here with the Brian Koberger case. There's so many examples of it. No, you're wrong, me, myself, and I. You're absolutely fucking wrong. You don't put your knee on the back of somebody's fucking spinal cord at their neck for 10 minutes and hold them on the fucking pavement. I don't give a fuck how many drugs the guy did. And I don't care who wants to disagree with me. You're a sick son of a bitch if you don't accept that. You have to accept that cop's action partook in triggering that kid's death. There's no way you can take that away. I don't give a fuck if that kid had needles in his arm at the time that he did it. He was breathing when he went down. He was not dead when he went to the ground, and he remained there, and he complained. And the fucking cop kept him under his knee. Other cops that were there were offering to help. I did watch the video of what happened to that guy. 9 minutes and 34 seconds, that cop kept him pinned to the ground with his knee. That fucking cop should be in jail for what he did, and in fact, he is in jail for what he did. That doesn't justify what George did. That doesn't justify that George wasn't a criminal. Doesn't make any excuse for anything. No cop should hold you fucking down by the back of your neck with the weight of him and his knee on you. Get the fuck out of here, man. Oh, okay, you're talking to me, myself, and I. I don't care if that was a white fucking church-going fucking violin-playing honor student. You don't do that to anybody, ever. He had other police. Once you've got a person subdued, you're to restrain and remove them from the conflicting scene. Restrain and remove. Just for basic dignity. A cop has no business doing that to anybody. I'm saying the drugs may have had something to do with it, but with the drugs that killed him if the cop didn't pin him down with his knee? And nobody can answer that with a scientific yes or no. It doesn't matter that he put himself in that predicament. It's not the job of the fucking policeman to do what he did. No fucking way is the cop allowed to do what he did. And I'm glad he was convicted, folks. And too many people focus on the bad negatives of the victim. Yeah, he was a drug addict. Yeah, he was a fucking scammer. Yeah, he was a thief. Yeah, he just robbed the fucking store. All of that is true. But where in that fucking sequence of events is there a fucking light that flashes that says, policeman, you could do whatever you want to a guy like this? Where's that fucking in the Constitution? Same thing with like what they just did to Brian Koberger. That probable cause affidavit was a fucking joke. No judge should have signed off on that. Look, I honestly think he's got a good argument for ineffective counsel. 6 months for a preliminary hearing. If these people didn't have the information or couldn't provide the information to defense for a preliminary hearing within 14 days, then the kid should have been released from custody. Because that's how the system works. Okay? And it's not, it goes to what I'm trying to say. That is the systemic corruption. That's an extreme example of systemic corruption. I mean, I'm on the highway today going 57 miles an hour, and a fucking cop goes by me going at least 70 and a 55. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So, see, what you're doing is you're justifying and you're helping reinforce the systematic fucking problems within our justice and our police system. I don't give a fuck if the kid was handled properly and then passed away from the fentanyl, there wouldn't have been an issue. What gave that cop the right to hold that kid down when other cops on the scene with him were asking him, would you like us to help? Should we get him up? Should we move him? Like, no, I got this. And he holds the kid down for 10 fucking minutes. I don't give a fuck, man. What if okay, let me ask you the same thing. Here's what I want people with these, and you ain't going to like me saying this, I don't give a fuck. With a sycophant fucking argument that the kid was a drug dealer, a drug addict. He would have died from fentanyl anyway. What if that was your grandfather with a weak heart, with Alzheimer's? What if that was your fucking grandfather, right? With stage 4 fucking cancer and a bad heart? What if there was your fucking kid, 35-year-old kid, with severe heart fucking problems, and the cop put his knee on the back of his fucking neck like that? And he died like that black dude did that was a drug addict. See, that's the problem with your reasoning. Your reasoning doesn't hold water because your reasoning doesn't apply to everything that could be there. The cop has no motherfucking business doing that to George Floyd. And anybody that doesn't get that is a fucking idiot. The fact that the kid died has many mitigating factors, but you can't remove the policeman's actions from the mitigating factors because, in fact, he died while under his fucking knee. Imagine if that was your kid that had an addiction fucking problem. Your 18, 19-year-old kid. Would that have been okay by you? Imagine if it was just some fucking, like I said, somebody with fucking stage 4 cancer or somebody that had a mistaken identity. What if it wasn't a guy like George that was a known fucking drug addict? And it was just some other guy that had some serious fucking health issues that the cop did that to. Now what? That's why there's standards and there's fucking reasons cops are allowed to do what cops do. Some things they're allowed to do are extreme. They're allowed to fucking kill you. But the circumstance must be extreme for the extreme force to be applied to you as an American citizen. And I'm sorry, anybody that wants to argue what happened to George Floyd wasn't the cop's fault, you really are. You are a misguided individual. You're just very misguided. You're very, I would say, you're prejudicial. Not that you're racist, but that you're being very prejudiced. You're prejudiced on behalf of defending the cop for the fact that he's a cop, not because of color. That's why I'm not using the word racist, but just because he was just doing his job. He was enforcing the law. He was protecting it. No, the guy went too fucking far. One of those other cops on the scene should have kicked him in the back of the fucking head and knocked him off that victim, that suspect, that perpetrator. And this is what I mean. There's never any middle ground sometimes between the two political sides. And I guarantee you that people on the right that think the cop didn't do anything wrong, if they were asked if that was their fucking niece, their nephew, their aunt, their uncle that had no drug problems but serious medical conditions and were then handled that way and kept pinned under a cop's knee for 9 minutes, if that would be okay with them, they'd all answer the same way. Fuck no. So why can't you see it when it comes to a black man that's on fentanyl that you claim with no scientific proof that he would have died anyway? You're making that claim to make yourself feel better or look better. But you can't make the claim that George Floyd was going to die, whether the cop did that or not. That's just a bullshit excuse that's unverifiable scientifically. That's just your way to your little comfort zone to make you feel good about what you know you're fucking wrong. You know you're wrong. You know you're wrong. When the cop has 9 minutes and 30-something seconds of his knee on the back of some dude's fucking neck like that, fuck that bullshit. That cop needs to be punished. It's like a cop comes up and punches somebody in the fucking face. That cop needs to be punished. Grabs you to the ground and slams you on a concrete sidewalk because you were jaywalking or you said something he didn't like. That's fucking bullshit. You presented no threat to him. And he had no fucking reason to grab you and violently slam you to the fucking concrete. And then you end up with fucking brain damage and you're a retard the rest of your life. Oh, well, that's different than... No, it's not different. It's the same mindset in these fucking policemen. That's the problem. That's the systemic problem. And unfortunately, Black Lives Matter doesn't know how to deliver a message. They're violent. And I'll say it, they're ignorant. They're hateful. They're racist. All the wrong fucking ingredients. But let me tell you, they are right on that specific point. The fucking system is systemically fucking flawed. There's no doubt about that. I guarantee if the FBI wasn't involved with Kohberger, that you probably would never have had a case against Kohberger, ever. Why was the federal government involved in this case? Why was the FBI all in on this Kohberger case? What was their need to be a part of this? What's going on over there? I think are legitimate questions. But I don't think that they're questions that should be directed toward the fact of the kid's innocence or guilt, because he admitted he was guilty. But I think if people wanted to start looking at, really, what was the FBI involvement there? What's the connection between Othram Lab and the FBI and the feds? I think those are good questions to ask. What cases have the feds and Othram worked on that resulted in some kind of shady conviction? That's something that should be looked at. Yeah, I agree with you, Thomas, and I think it's just tragic. These guys, like I'm saying, I'm going 57 and a 55, and this guy walks by me, and I can see him. for miles ahead of me. He's not getting off on any exit. He's in no hurry to go anywhere specific to fight crime. This fucking dude's going 70 or plus in a 55. How is that okay? Policemen have, man, it really bothers me to my core to see that. You're there to enforce the law, okay? You're not the law. You're not the fucking judge, jury, and executioner. If the speed limit says 55, woe be you to go 56. Okay? Woe be you to go. You should get in fucking trouble. These cars should be monitored. No, that's not why they got involved, Betty Davis. They were in there before there was ever a mention of Koberger. They got in there and they were there before there was even a crime. The FBI and the Department of Justice were doing some exercises or some operation over in Idaho. Because Idaho is probably the best kept secret to a lot of fucking crime. And when you go back in the last 4 years, and again, politics aren't even relevant here, but it is a reality that in fact the last administration was letting all these crime cartels and criminals and murderers come into the fucking country and do their thing. So you can almost say, although I don't give it any credit, that any officials or any authorities that got involved in any criminal activity for profit were given the green light to do so and therefore took the advantage to do it. Was that what was going on in Idaho? We'll never know unless we look to find it. We'll never know. I mean, there's a million fucking possibilities here. And what did people on the internet do? They paid attention to fucking Bubbly Waters and Tommy Jude and fucking Pavarotti and all these fucking idiots that were trying to show you who committed the crime. And it wasn't. Brian's innocent. And the real problem was never whether Brian did it or not. The real problem was your Justice Department. Not just in the state of Idaho, but at the federal level that nosed itself into this case for reasons unknown. And they got the outcome they wanted, right? Whoever thinks Floyd died of fentanyl, Google it quick. Even if he did die of fentanyl, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is that fucking cop, that piece of shit, shouldn't have done that to any human being. And here's a bunch of people in true crime. You not all of you, not this chat room specifically, but you motherfuckers that say you shouldn't shame victims. And although this gentleman was a perpetrator of a crime, he became a victim with that fucking knee on the back of his neck. And yet we're so willing to shame George for his bad life choices. I mean, okay, I'm not going to defend the guy. He was a piece of shit. I'll buy you dinner and discuss that. And we can dissect exactly just how deeply fucking much of a piece of shit that dude was. I'll go with that. But did that mean that he should have his fucking neck pinned down by the knee of a fucking 180, 200-pound fucking cop behind a cop car at the tailpipe? Come on. While the car was running? Are you serious? I don't know, man. I think reasonable people, when given a different lens to look through, okay, if they're willing to open their eyes to that other lens, which is a different perspective, then you start learning how to think. Because there was so much wrong in everything that happened that day that you have to take all the wrongs to find the right. A fucking Pavarotti hid because Pavarotti was fucking Koberger blew a hole in his fucking game. He'll come back with a new game. Pavarotti had so many fucking angles and so much this, and he's a good con man. Back in the 1800s, that guy would roll into your town with a fucking horse and wagon and start selling you elixirs. That's who Pavarotti is. And back in the 1800s, people like Tommy and Bubbly Waters, they were the witches and the cult leaders of their day. They were the ones that would come there preaching some fucking religion. That would be a lot of these other streamers on the internet. All con men of a certain fucking feather. And it's not even a matter of not liking them. I just don't like what these people do. Look at Crime Circus. Fucking parachutes from the sky and fucking jumping off tree limbs that are as thick as a... Every one of these people are never going to change. That's who they are. And if you want to engage with them and fucking allow YouTube to pay them to be present, part of your fucking world, you go right ahead and keep doing it. That's why, a lot of these things, I try to get people to see that the relevant information isn't in the stories these people are telling. Remember that's fucking parachutes, fucking tunnels and parachutes and Black Hawk helicopters. And yeah, I don't really have any ill will for any of these people. I just, when I see a fucking con man or a snake oil salesman, I can sense them, I can smell them, I see them. And then there's people that don't even know that's what they're doing. They're too stupid to know what they're doing because people are paying attention to them, and they're just entertaining people. And the people that are watching, for whatever reason, I don't know. How can you watch all these hours and hours and hours of blown up and fucking pixelated video and fucking sound fucking bites of things that you don't even know where they came from? It's rather fucking shocking to me how far afield people have gone. And they do that with all of these cases. They did it in the Sebastian Rogers case. They're not doing it with the two young kids that were lost up there in Canada there. Where were they? They were lost out there in the wilderness in a camper, not a camper, but a mobile home. Dago covers that often. They can't make that kind of case there. Not really. I mean, yeah, Brian Cope, but listen, that still doesn't really have any bearing on the case. I did see that, Thomas. Yes. And that you're talking about the coach. Is that who you're talking about there, Mr. Sharp? Yeah, Lily and Jack Sullivan. Now, that's not really a big sensation because there isn't all this technology involved. They don't have all of those games to play with the video cameras and stuff, right? Nova Scotia is where it happened. And I'm sorry, I just think, like, what the fuck ever with all this chaos? It gets to be mind numbing, man. And I always said, pay attention to the facts. Let the facts are going to tell a story, and they're either going to tell you a true story or a false story, but that one or the other will be revealed. Yeah, you're never going to get other creators to follow my lead. I had the same issue with politics. I was talking to Twiz the other day. Some of the actors people point at in politics that are criminal it's just a joke, man. I'm tired of the stories about the Clintons. I don't support the Clintons. I don't support any of these politicians. But I do support the information that's verifiably true. So don't tell me that the Clintons have got 54 dead bodies around them, because you can't prove one single of those dead bodies have a connection to the Clintons getting them killed. And until you can, I don't want to talk about it. Same thing with Epstein and Epstein Island. I don't want to know who was on that island. It's none of my fucking business. It's none of your business either. Unless any of the people that were on that island or visiting that island were doing so for criminal activities. Then I want to know what the crime is, and I'd like to see what the charges against the person is. So that's to me is I like to absorb the things that can be verified, or things that are become part of the story, that are part of the factual basis of the story, and then later find out that none of the factual basis of the story is true. Right? That's like, blows your mind. Yeah, if Trump was on that island, I'd like to know. But I'll tell you what I do know about Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And this is a true story. The only prominent person in all of America that gave testimony against Jeffrey Epstein was Donald J. Trump in 2009. Donald J. Trump is the only person that had bad shit to say and bad things to say to communicate about Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago and wouldn't let him come back, because Jeffrey Epstein was trying to hit on the fucking workers at Mar-a-Lago, many of which were members' daughters, inviting them to that island and then trying to get them to give him a massage. Daughters under the age of 18. And Trump fucking kicked them out for that. So there is a history of Trump's association with Epstein. There is Epstein that was at Mar-a-Lago, but all that was ended by Trump himself. So, what do we got there, Frankie? Let me see here. Frank sent us something. What do you got there, Frank? Hang on, bear with me. I got to turn off the. I got it all fucked up. Hang on, I got to kill my X volume. Where's the volume? Yeah, okay. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, that's that Epstein there. But here's the thing. I just want to say that yeah, but Epstein was a friend with many prominent people because Epstein was in those circles. Epstein was a billionaire. How he got his money is not known to me. And the fact of the matter was that he who was he going to hang out with? Me and you? Regardless of his criminal fucking his sexual perversions, the guy's a billionaire. He's going to hang out in places billionaires can hang out. And those that didn't know him, I mean, you know billionaires like Trump, but you know how many billionaires exist that you've never even heard of? Just think about that. There's more billionaires you've never heard of than there's billionaires you know of. I promise you that. You know the fag book guy, you know the Amazon guy, you know the fucking rocket ship guy, you know Trump, you know the idiot guy that bought the basketball team, you know a few, but that's just a fucking few. You don't know how many billion. There's a lot of billionaires, folks, and they all live in a different world than you and I, and they all fucking hang out in circles and go to places you and I are just not going to go to because we don't have the means to do so. And so, guilt by association isn't guilt to me. Guilt by association is only guilt if your association, you're knowingly, wittingly, or like I said, if you drive Epstein to the bank and he robs the bank and gets back in your car, you aren't necessarily a bank robber, but you are a party to the crime. And you could be charged with it. So maybe by that association, but that when it comes to the sexual crimes that people keep screaming, Clinton and all these people did, I don't accept that. I don't accept that the fact that Bill was at that island that many times means Bill was banging young girls. I just don't. I want to see evidence of it. 813 billionaires currently in the U.S., according to Google. How about those people that aren't quite billionaires but are close to being billionaires or are like worth $500 million? Don't you think they don't hang out at the same places those 813 billionaires? I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of extremely wealthy individuals that go places that you and I may not even know exist or may not have access to, right? Or their own particular property or what. So my point is that association of even Bill Gates interacting with Jeffrey Epstein doesn't tell me that Bill Gates is a pedophile. If that's your conclusion and you can't see life any other way, then that's just because you don't know how to think. You want to know the truth. You don't have the capacity to think. You have the infinite capacity to believe. Seeing is believing. Why would he hang out with that guy if not for? I mean, you're just not a thinker. You're just not. You're a believer, and I don't like to associate or do anything with people that believe, unless we're talking about religion or faith or spirituality. But seeing a picture of Trump with Epstein doesn't make me think that Trump had anything to do with Epstein's fucking perversions, no more than seeing a picture of Bill Clinton with Epstein does. It just doesn't. Sorry. Show me evidence. Show me. That then will give me the confidence that, these rumors, these suppositions, these arguments that it must, that is a bunch of fucking drama programming that you live with. That like the police that don't realize they shouldn't be speeding anyway, the police that should be the epitome of justice. Okay, what? Because he was with women his whole life. Yeah, I don't care if you're hanging out with any of these fucking people. That's what I'm trying to say. First of all, it's none of your damn business who people hang out with. One, that's what it is to be American, and two, What Diddy did, and other people willingly participated with it. Was what Diddy did criminal? The courts will determine that. Yeah, but so what? That doesn't mean the guy's a pedophile, Betty. And it's not fair to say that the Clintons are responsible for all these people's deaths when there's no evidence to say that. You could build up, here's the funny thing. For all of the people that come through these streams that scream Kohberger is innocent, okay? You see what a circumstantial case is. In other words, you have the capacity to see, but yet you have blinders on because you don't like somebody. And this especially applies to people that hate Donald Trump. They don't have any real reason to hate the guy, other than they believe that the guy is the worst fucking person to ever be born. And that means anything that's said about him, they'll accept. But they'll never step down from their fucking high horse and say, wait a minute. What if that was me that was being accused of touching somebody 45 fucking years ago? What if it was me that the state of New York decided to remove the statute of limitations just to prosecute me? How would I feel about that? Because let's be clear, the case with that one broad that's going to the Supreme Court, the state of New York's legislator voted to remove the statute of limitations just from that case. I don't give a fuck if Trump did it or not. The statute of limitations was gone. And they passed a fucking law, a 24-hour extension that none of these crimes had a statute of limitations just to charge Trump. And you're telling me as an American citizen that doesn't fucking offend you? I don't give a fuck if Trump fucking took his dick out and slapped that broad around, stuck it up her ass, and made her lick it clean. It happened before. It happened long before. And long before. And the statute of limitations ran out a long time ago. And I don't even want to hear about the crime. Sorry. Doesn't matter to me. Because that's what it is to be an American. The justice system, the laws of the land, the limits the government have placed upon them all must be consistently followed. And the outcome is the outcome. Even if Brian Kohberger killed these 4 innocent people, or these 4 guilty people, or just these 4 people, if he would have got acquitted at trial, he's acquitted at trial. That's how it works. But when the system is corrupt, and it's corrupt all over the fucking place. Brian Kohberger, the only reason I brought up Trump is to give you an example. Go look at the way they charged this guy, Trump. And none of those cases stuck. And why did they all go away? Because he was actually nominated and ran for the office and won. The whole reason for these cases, why did they bring all of those cases? I don't know. Maybe I ought to call Elon or his fucking big balls guy and ask them a simple question. Why would they brought all of those cases against Trump during the 4 years he was? Could it been to keep him from running again? Ding, 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 ding. And once that didn't work, they fucking stopped. Oh, boy, that isn't a coincidence, is it? And you look at the Kohberger case, I'm telling you, the Kohberger case is a mirror image of what you've seen happen to that fucking jerk-off Trump. Every fucking case that they ran against him, they did the same thing to Kohberger that they did to Trump. That's just an actual fact, right? Karen Reed, though, got a lot of support from the public and pushback. If that would have happened for Brian Kohberger, we may not, in fact, have been where we were. If that would have happened for Kohberger. But that didn't happen for Kohberger. Kohberger may never have taken a plea if he would have had a big public support. I mean, in the Karen Reed case, they went after and the public was like, what the fuck are these cops doing? But nobody did that with the Bryan case, and the Bryan's case was every bit as egregious as Karen's. The accusations every bit as circumstantial and fucking bullshit. She ran into his arm at 24 miles an hour and caved in his fucking head. Or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Killed him, hit his arm, killed him. Was his arm bruised? No. Was his bone broke? No. Was his ankle sprained? No. Was his wrist broke? No. Was his pinky finger dislocated? No. He had fucking dog bites in his arm that came from the car. Oh yeah, okay, he's guilty. Fucking lock her up. I mean, that was even worse. But the Kohberger case was no less outrageous. Oh, it's a white car. It's a white car. It's a white car. It's a white car. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he touched my boobie. He touched my boobie. He brushed against my boobie. That one broad. Here's a woman that was on TV. They had to stop the interview when she said, all us women have rape fantasies. What? You all have rape fantasies? Oh my God. That's the woman that was accusing a guy of fucking touching her booby. We live in a fucked up society because we are fucked up. Let's never forget that. We're the fucked up fucking party. Not the fucking politicians, not the fucking prosecutors, not the cops. We're the fucked up party. Literally, it's us. Not them, it's us. It's us because we allow them to exist. It's us because we don't hold them to the standards that they should be holding themselves to. It's us that loves the outrage. It's us that loves the drama. It's us that is the fucking problem. It's 5.63 billion fucking morons that are the problem. More so the problem than the fucking crimes you're seeing your fucking officials commit. They only commit those crimes because they're allowed to, because of us. It's quite the circle jerk that we've created for ourselves in the reality that we live, where in fact we ourselves are the biggest problem of all problems, and yet we don't pay attention to anything we do. Woe be us to question our own fucking behavior. Woe be us. Right? Let's just pay attention to what other people did and point out how fucked up they are. Let's go after the Clintons and the Trumps, and let's go after the fucking Obamas and the fucking Bidens. Let's go after the fucking... And not to say, listen, I'm not justifying that they're not fucked up, but they're only that fucked up because we allow ourselves to allow people like that fucked up to be in positions of power that they're so fucked up being in. We are the problem. No, we're the worst problem of all. We, the people, are our own worst fucking problem. That doesn't mean these people should be excluded from consequences for their behavior. But that's when I look at the Idaho case now, after Brian did what he did, and you try to take a bigger context on a 50,000-foot view from it all, there's a lot of questions that now you ask and they make perfect sense. There's something being protected in Idaho, whether Brian did it or not, whether Brian's involved. For all we know, Brian did it on behalf of the officials. How's that for a crazy fucking theory? And then the officials turned on him. And if he wants to save his sisters and his mother and his father, he's got to go to prison for that crime. A crime that he may have committed on behalf of the people that wanted him to commit it, are the same people that prosecuted him. As crazy as that sounds, that's as fucking real as anything else that happened in that case. Yeah, I don't know about all women having a rape fantasy. I can't even imagine that. I've been with a lot of different girls in my life, and I'll tell you what, I don't know. Some of them are into some crazy shit, but not all of them. Guarantee you not all of them. We're all individuals. But I'm saying we the people, we're the problem. We really don't get unified in anything. Occasionally we do. All these people screaming, we want the Epstein files. Shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up with that. We want the Epstein client list. Go fuck yourselves. Unless those clients are chargeable by a crime, it's none of your business. It's not even right for you to call them a client. Like, how the fuck dare you? And if they did commit crimes, and if in fact they are clients, then I'll agree. Those people's names, those that fit that classification, we have every right to know. I think it's funny that like a lot of people believe whatever they want about the Clintons, and a lot of people believe whatever they want about Trump. And both of you are just as nuts as the next. You're both equally insane. You're not paying attention to the facts. You're not paying attention to verifiable data. You're taking a belief and you're taking your feelings and you're believing what your feelings are telling you. And you have a bad feeling about these people. And so you believe everything. I don't think there's going to be anything so new to see that we're going to say, here's what I hope we do see. In all fairness, I really hope we see evidence that was argued against secretly is revealed to show Brian Koberger did it. That's what I hope we see. That would at least put the fucking entire situation on an even keel again. Okay? Because I think that's more important to see than anything else. that the state, in fact, in their sealed hearings and in their sealed proceedings and in their sealed motions and in their redactions, had bits of information that would impugn Brian Kohlberger and make him guilty of the crime. That's what I'm hoping. In all fairness, folks, that would make the world seem right at this point. And I think the world seeming right would be a better outcome than where we are right now. Because the world is definitely in a very, it's off its fucking axis, let me tell you. Yeah, George Webb. If I know who you're talking about, George Webb, isn't he that? I don't know. I don't think I ever talked. I don't think I ever talked to George Webb. Um, yeah, I don't look at. I don't want to get into some deeply philosophical, uh, some deeply any real deep conversation here. But there's a lot going on, folks, and a lot of it has a central focus, and it does a very good job at keeping us divided. And if you even look, there's division within even separate groups. So if you take the right and you take the left, there's a lot of division in each group. There's a lot of people on the left that don't agree with a lot of the left's philosophies when it comes to gender assignment and all this other chaos. And there's even some that don't agree with the global warming. There's groups within groups within groups within groups. And we've all been trained and we've all been designed by the system um, to be a part of a group and then part of a subgroup that's in that group. And there's all these different differences that keep people apart. And I think that George Floyd thing with the cop doing what he did, um, I think that should be a defining moment of clarity for both sides, because both sides are making arguments that are valid arguments. Um, one side is being extreme and the other side is being extreme, but the truth of it is in the middle. Is what that police officer acceptable to you if that were your child that had a drug problem? And I suspect most people would agree but that wasn't my that's would it be okay if that was you? There was an ambulance there. There were other officers there. Within a minute of that kid going down and being placed under his knee, he could have been bound, lifted, and thrown in the back of an ambulance. You know? And the thing is that's the middle ground that nobody wants to fucking run to the middle ground. Everybody wants to find a hill to die on. Kohlberger's guilty. Kohlberger's innocent. Everybody wants to run to a fucking hill. And the real problem in the Kohlberger case isn't the innocent or guilt of the accused. It's in the processes to which he became the accused. It's in the backdoor deals and the lying and the sneaking that your law enforcement did. I mean, they named Brian Kohlberger by using Othram Labs. And Othram Labs used an individual to go into databases with information that they shouldn't have had to go into the databases with. Therefore, the chain of custody is fucked. That information that provided Kohlberger's name should have been inadmissible in any court of law. Just because of the way the FBI and Othram did what they did. Something that we didn't know. And there's still a chance that it's not absolutely true. But when you look at the paperwork and the information outlined by Lana, just look at the paperwork. Forget what Lana's telling you. Look at the paperwork, and the timeline does stand tall. That Othram was always the IgG fucking person, both initially when they couldn't identify the fucking DNA, and then when the next sample they used to identify the DNA doubled in size. And then they went into databases where Heritage, for instance, they had no permission to go into, and they did it with a third party. That was all done with Othram. So that action in and of itself should make the evidence that was retrieved not a fucking tip, as the FBI argued it would be, but inadmissible under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, an unlawful search and seizure. And Brian Kohlberger should never have been charged with this crime. And he could have stood up and said, I did it. And it should have ended on that fucking that stand right there. And that was a hill that Ann Taylor didn't want to die on for whatever reason. Ann Taylor agreed to let the IGG be called a tip, not to bring it up in court. I don't know what the fuck in her mind thought. She thought that was okay. You'd have had to disbar me for me to accept that. You'd have had to hold me in contempt and disbar me and put me in fucking jail to let what apparently happened here with the IGG work being done all through the same fucking lab, through the same fucking people, through Othram Labs in connection with the FBI. Nah. That shit, yeah, I'd have been on every fucking news agency in the country. I don't give a fuck. I'd be calling in through the internet and fucking undisclosed locations with burner fucking phones. I'd be the lawyer on the run, spreading the truth to any fucking stream, any fucking news outlet, or anybody in the world that would listen. The truth is only as good as how the truth is obtained. It's not okay to illegally obtain the truth, to use the truth to then punish the person the truth is impugning. And that's the way our justice system is supposed to be designed. And that's not the way it's being operated. It's quite fucking funny, man. It's quite fucking funny. It's a tragedy. I mean, I said in 2018, when Trump was being accused of being a Russian asset, I had found enough information to show that every allegation made and every criminal accusation laid at the feet of Donald Trump and his campaign associates was true. Every story was true. Every story was an accurate depiction of a true crime. Every single one, including pissing on Obama's bed. True. The only fucking thing wrong with those accusations were the people that actually committed the crimes were not named in the accusations. Their names were removed and the Trump and Trump campaign officials' names were put in their place. The Rosneft oil deal, true. It just had nothing to do with Carter Page. Every single fucking accusation that they laid at the feet of the intelligence community to say this is what Donald Trump and his people did, every allegation was a true fucking fact. You remember in that one TV show? Names have been changed to protect the innocent. Names were changed to impugn the innocent in that entire fucking dossier that was produced by Christopher Steele. I can prove that. I've got documentations to show that. And that's the irony of our modern world. I'm sure some of what they're saying about happening in that crime scene is true. But I don't think that they have the evidence to say that Brian Koberger is the perpetrator of it. That may, in fact, be why he said, well, these other four so-called suspects couldn't be involved because they didn't have a white car. I almost went to that January 6th. I actually had a booking for a room and I canceled it at that Trump hotel down there. Something told me don't go. And I'm glad I didn't go. I think that's a good perspective, real. I'm not saying Ann was involved. I think Ann is overwhelmed and Ann can only go so far. I told you I had a lawyer that played a recording of the most racist, derogatory comments the law guardian could have ever made against me. None of them true, but with a hate for me that had nothing to do with my parenting skills. Had absolutely zero to do with my parenting skills, and had everything to do with who I was 10 years before I became a parent, and nothing to do with who I was in the day leading up to, during the pregnancy, and years after the pregnancy. None of what happened, none of the things that person was trying to destroy me with and did, had anything to do with me being a fucking parent. And that lawyer told me as I was sitting there, this tape is now, you heard it, I'm deleting it. And she deleted that fucking conversation. She wouldn't bring it to court. And her reason? Because she has to work with these people the rest of her life, and I'm just one case. This literally happened to me. $300 an hour I was paying that fat fuck of an attorney. I destroyed her in front of the judge. Destroyed her. I fucking burned and humiliated her in front of the fucking judge and fired her fat fucking ass. I had to have been a lunatic to hire that fucking broad. I'll see you in fucking in court. I go, you sue me all you want. But save yourself the fucking ink, you fat bitch. I got you in my bankruptcy already. Have a good day. And I bankrupted that fat fuck. And that to let that law guardian keep me from my kid, to let that law guardian destroy me because I'm Italian, the racist, vicious things he said about me that were completely untrue, to keep me away from my kid, and she tells me that she can't play that in the court because she's got to work with these people the rest of her life, and I'm just one case. Man. So yeah, it doesn't even need to be a public defender. Your lawyer is not always your best friend. Every single case that I won in court was because every lawyer I went to told me to take a fucking plea deal because there was no way that that case could be litigated and won. Every single fucking time I was told that, I litigated the case myself and won. Every single time. And I'm not there. This isn't dozens of examples. It's probably 4 different cases. But when I say every single time, and those 4 cases that I was told that I couldn't win this case, that I had to take a plea bargain or I can end up with worse and time in jail, fuck you. And I went and did it myself. I went to the law library and I did it myself. So, the legal system is fucked. It's fucked up. It really is. And the people that are in it don't know they're fucked up because they're trained and their points of view and their perspectives are built in. They're programmed into them. And it's just wrong. It's not the right things that they're being programmed with. The fact that they just speed on your streets is an example of what I mean. That in and of itself says everything you need to know about a policeman. They should be the glorification of the law. They should be the smiling fucking bright shiny badge and shine fucking shoe of a human being that lives and enjoys and prospers in life by following the law. They should be the example of what a life of following the law can produce. Their personality, their demeanor, their behavior. They shouldn't be the drunks at the fucking bar that have a guy end up dead in their fucking front yard. Okay? That just should not be part of your law enforcement. The Karen Reed case. The same bullshit they pulled in the Delphi case. The same bullshit they pulled in the Gilgo case. The same bullshit they're pulling in the Koberger case. And the real problem in all of that is us. Because we don't do anything about it. Either because we're afraid to, or because we don't want to step out of line, or because we've been programmed not to, or there isn't, I don't know what the fuck. There's an infinite amount of reasons. I only know a few of them. But why is it okay for us to let a cop go flying by us and not report him? Why is that okay? Why, are you afraid the cops are going to target you? Well, that's even more reason to be doing it, isn't it? Because you're the government and I'm the government. Arresting a guy in a probable cause affidavit that has nothing to show him to be at that fucking house. In the affidavit itself. Not even DNA at that point. Nothing. They admit they can't place him at the house based on the location of his phone. And they have no clear line of sight of a video that places his car there. And no line of sight and no clear video or even fucking photograph that shows that it's his car that they were watching. They can't even make that point solid. And yet, they arrested him for quadruple homicide. I'm just saying, it's the biggest problem in the system is the people, not the system itself. The system can't be fixed if the people themselves don't ask for it to be fixed. That's true to some extent. That is the mindset for a lot of public defenders. Listen, a lot of people, myself included, are guilty of the crime charged. Let's be clear, folks. We're guilty of the crime charged. Let's be clear. That's why I've said to you, people can call me whatever names they want. They can insult me at that. I don't really care because most of it's true anyway. I've lived quite the fucking colorful life. I haven't broken the law in 30 plus years. But prior to that, I was breaking the law all the fucking time. My mere presence in certain locations was probably a violation of the law. I was fucked up from the floor up. It is what it is. Bear with me for 2 seconds. I got to take a quick break. I need to get a refreshment. Probably going to be more sunny day. Not that they're sponsoring the show or anything. Not that they would. But because I do have like 3 or 4 cases of it. So I'll be right back. We're back. Vodka tonic here. Ah. Let's see. What up, Joanne? Yeah, we do. We allow it. And so in the end, is it all that bad? So what if Koberger did this or didn't do this? It is what it is. He admitted to it. Nothing's going to change if you want to now die on that hill. I say have at it. You want to continue to argue his innocence? Have at it. I mean, if there's enough people that'll follow you around, you'll get a lot of clicks, more clicks than I'm ever going to get, because people love that kind of drama. And I say have at it, man. Go for it. Does anybody know what these helmets are? These crowns in the chat room. What the hell are these crowns with a number next to them? Number 2. Beach Babe has got a number 2. Wyatt Harris has a number 3. What the hell are these helmets? Or not helmets, I'm sorry. These crowns with the numbers next to them. Does anybody know what the hell those things are? And as usual, and I forgot to mention this, but at the top of the page, the top of the chat, pinned in the top of the chat, is always a link for you to click on and come in. If you so choose to come in and have a conversation, you're welcome. It's your Royal Court of Gifters. Oh, well, you're supposedly, I think you were the first. Maybe it's the order to which you came in. I don't know. But other people have the same number 1 as you. They're good trouble. It's to make people feel important. Okay, well, I guess if a little symbol on the internet makes us feel important, then I'm very important. I got me a whole damn stream. Let's see, jump over to X. And by the way, Frank, if you're not here, I want to thank you for being here. He gave me a rundown here, the Jeffrey Epstein file, based on Eric Weinstein, who was a very, very intelligent man. A lot of people don't like the airplanes thing. Yeah, I don't know why YouTube is doing this. Good trouble. Oh well. Oh wait. Good. Not working for me. It's never too late. Well, it's never too late. Maybe it will one day, right? Who the hell knows? What do I got going on here? Nothing. Maybe it's commenters. I've never had one. I don't know. I've seen them in different streams that I've been in the chat room. Yahoo's trying to tell us something? I don't know. Are you kings of queens like that TV show, or are you just kings? I don't know. Who the hell knows what it is? But what do I want to say here? We live in both the best and the worst times. We live in the most unique and the most common times. And I don't know. I don't know. We're part of a system that is giving us what we got, and we got what we got because we keep giving back what the system gave us to give. I think it is comment related, in all fairness. Don't I think I've lately started to be in kind of awe and wonderment as to why it is we can't remember things in the very early fucking development of our life. I find that to be very curious how for some reason memories of crawling and your first time of walking, how none of that is a memory that you have anymore. And how your memories abruptly start to get collected. And for whatever, you can only see back so far. Now, I think I can see back further than many people, and some people can see back even further than I can. I remember the high chair. I remember stumbling around as a little kid, but I don't remember anything before that. So we all have that very blank that blank fucking place. And I think the key to understanding ourselves, I think the key to humanity and the truth about what humanity really is lies in that area of forgetting. I think it's that that period of our early existence as children, as toddlers, as infants. That early period of life, something is happening that's conditioning us contrary to what we would be without that early period of life being what it is. In other words, as science has proven over and over again, what's real isn't technically real except for the perception of its reality. That may not make sense. It may sound contradictory or confusing, but I'm going to stand on the statement as I stated it. What is so important? I think there's got to be something important to the limit of how back you can remember, and I think that is crucial because from that lack of memory, everything that is in your life and is part of your existence starts to fill itself in. Your understanding of what a tree is, or a blade of grass is, or a rock, or a bottle starts to fill in. Is that early part of our existence, the very beginning of our journey into being alive, is that deprogrammed out of us? Is what would naturally develop from that being developed to be what we are now? Is there something to that period of our existence that we have had hidden from ourselves? See, that's what they're telling us, Rach. That's what they're telling you. That they keep telling you all kinds of things that explain it. And they make sense. Makes sense. But to what part of development does your brain have to attain for it to have a memory? You recognize your mother. You recognize your father. You can giggle. You can laugh. You can cry. You really can't do much more than what you're doing from early infancy all the way through your life. So is that a truth, or is that our programming? What is it that changes between those early fucking months, and I'll say 20 months of life, 22, 24, 26, 30, 36, 48. It's different for all of us. But in those many, many months of early life, what is it? What is it that's taking place during that? Something's happening during that period of time. And it's a crucial part of our development. And I think that crucial part of our development is an introduction to the reality that is imposed upon us. And we all of a sudden become part of a reality instead of the creator of a reality. Now, isn't this far astray of the Koberger topic? But just think about that for a minute. You see, what is it? How have we come to be what we are? I didn't create this reality. But yet we're all part of creating reality. Yet you don't even realize that you are part of creating reality, but you are. But you are. How many of you ever laughed at the thought of them charging you for water? Yeah, one day they're going to start making you pay for water. How many of you had the thought, boy, it'd be nice to have one of these in my I'd like to have a phone in my car. And we do create our own reality. Yes, we do. But is it the reality that we create that we want to create? Or is this a reality that's being created and we're participating in because that's what we've been programmed to do? You see? I think that's a very, very good topic. It's something interesting to think about because the answers are there. I want to answer JK. The reason it was unlawful for either Othram or the FBI to do what they did was they went into databases that prohibit law enforcement from accessing their data and their user agreement to the members of the site. So take that in mind. That's the crucial importance here. Heritage's member agreement, user agreement, protects you from unlawful searches by law enforcement without the official applications and probable cause warrants that they are required to obtain. So if your information is in that database and the FBI takes your information they collected lawfully from a crime scene and hands it off for a third party to go around the back door to get information for that law enforcement agency that the law enforcement agency itself has no access to because of the Constitution, and then turns it over to the law enforcement agency who then use it to finger you as a criminal, that's where the violation comes in. And Ann never really fought that properly. Ann never really argued that correctly. But that's why Othram and not the FBI. The FBI themselves wouldn't do it. The FBI themselves allowed Othram to do it. And in fact, probably encouraged them. And then when they turned the information over to Idaho, they said the name Brian Koberger was a tip. Not to use their tip. Not to use them in their investigation. Just as they were an anonymous tip, as if somebody called Brian Koberger's name into the tip line. That's why they wanted to go the route of being called a tip. Because the information collected to identify Brian Koberger was done unlawfully. And I don't want to hear the argument. It's a policy. It's a recommended policy, or it's a procedure that they violated. Absolutely fucking wrong. The policy is laid down by the Department of Justice is clear that they're allowed to access databases that are open to law enforcement's use. And they need a warrant to access databases that prohibit the use without such warrant. And that's where the problem in the Koberger case is, whether he's the killer or not. That whole IGG bullshit is a fucking violation of the Constitution. No, Brian Koberger's sister never called in the tip. Had nothing to do with his sister. Zero to do with it. That's a myth that's been going around for 2.5 years. That's been going around for 2.5 years. So, again, when you get back, I want to get back to that other topic, folks. I think we have been, unless something so outrageous is happening, that we can all get together and coalesce around it. I think that most people, or most of us, fucking leave me alone, Ashley. God damn. Anyway, Hitler was wrong with his ruling. Yeah. Hitler was dead wrong because Ann's argument had nothing to do with the Hitler's response. Hitler was talking fish when Ann was talking about the grass. That's how different their conversations were. Ann never argued the sample itself had Fourth Amendment protections. Ann's argument was how the FBI got a third party to use databases they were prohibited from using without a warrant. That was her argument, and she's right in that argument. No, Ashley's a friend on my text messages. God damn. How do you tell somebody to leave me alone nicely without them taking offense? In a text message, you really can't. Yeah. So anyway. Yeah, Hitler was way off. Hitler was way off in denying the alternative suspects as well. Because there wasn't a single fact entered into evidence in the state's arguments that made that white car Brian Koberger's car. Not one single fact they could rest their hand on and say, look at that bumper sticker. Look at that dent. Look at the broken mirror. Look at the cracked windshield. They had nothing to separate that white vehicle from any other fucking white vehicle of similar make and model. Nothing. And so for him to accept that as a fact and base that the alternative suspect can't be involved because they didn't have a white car is the most horrific fucking thing a judge could have ever said, yet he did. The car had nothing to do with that crime. And I suspect that was provable in an argumentative way to a jury. If you establish what I'd been saying for a month or two, the crime started at 4:17 a.m. when the dog went fucking nuts for the first time. When the thump, the struggle, and the whimper were caught on a camera at 4:17 a.m., that's the time the crime began. Not 4 a.m., not 4:05, not 4:07, not 4:09, 4:17 a.m. Therefore, Brian Koberger and that white car could not have been a part of the crime. And the fact that she didn't make that case to the court is just shocking to me. Now, it may be because they had evidence the crime started at 4:08 or 4:09. But there was nothing released to the public that can contradict what I say. 4:17 is the only verifiable moment a crime was in progress. And that it began at that time because of the dog's reaction and because of what was caught on a camera 50 feet away. To me, that's why when I hear a lot, I like Eddie. Eddie is real cool. He's a very smart dude. But the facts of the case would have exonerated Koberger. Okay. Let's see. Right. I don't know what's going on there. Yeah. I would have not. I would have not allowed my client to plead guilty. I would have fucking, if I had to stay up all night and argue with the motherfucker, I'd have sat in the cell with him. I never would have let him plead, even if he did it. I just wouldn't have done it. There was too much involvement from the federal feds. There was too much chaos, too much bullshit, too many lies, too much media, too much propagandizing. and not enough evidence. I would have fought that tooth and nail. And like I said, to the point of disbarment and to being held in contempt. Yeah, I don't see any of that. Rich. Listen, the kid took responsibility. Yeah, and it's a horrific thing he took responsibility for. So you have to take him at his word, whether you like it or not. And all these things that we see that are wrong with the case, and all the bullshit that we can obviously point to and say that's wrong, that's fucked up, that ain't right. All amounts to a fucking hill of beans. You know, it just amounts to a hill of beans. Nancy Disgrace interviewed Kristen Middleman from Othram Lab at Crime Lab. Nancy Disgrace claimed Middleman solved the case. Idaho Four. Yeah, she did, because it was her and her husband that went and took that data. And I'm telling you, they doubled the sample size when it got to the FBI, because Othram included all of the medical information that they could derive from the sample they were given. And they took that combined bit of data and went through the back door as a citizen into the other fucking database. That's how it was done. And that's the violation. That's the constitutional fucking roadblock that they're not supposed to cross. And this is what government is famous for. Government uses third parties to do their dirty work. But the bottom line is that still is a violation of the Constitution, because the work you're doing is being paid for on behalf of the federal government or the state government or the county government. So you can't just use a third party. This is why this case was so important for Brian Koberger not to plead to. And I really don't think Ann was equipped to make these arguments or fight those battles, especially on the IGG. I think she gave up too easily. I think when the judge ruled that the car, because they didn't have access nor own a white car, that they couldn't be involved, I think that she should have said, Your Honor, I strenuously object to your statement. Your statement's out of line. There isn't a single piece of evidence that makes that white car even part of the crime. And in fact, my alternative suspects proved that car wasn't part of the crime. You can't just deny that hat in hand like that. Hell no. I would have found a way to appeal that ruling. I would have just fought that argument with him. I'd have gone in his chambers and had a fucking boxing match with the guy. I'd have hit him so fucking hard his hair would have grown back. Fuck that noise, Hippler. You fucking twit. They don't have a white car. I don't give a fuck if they got purple cars. They got no cars, or they got I don't even know what the fuck you call it anymore. It's a limp. They got deformed feet. I don't give a fuck. It's got nothing to do with it. Yeah. I just think that Ann really, really fucking dropped the ball and didn't fight get on the hills and fight the battle till death on some of these hills. And in that sense, you may be able to argue ineffectual counsel, but I don't want to be a part of that fucking argument. I really don't even want to get into much of the Idaho Four anymore. Just because Brian pled guilty and all of that bullshit that's happened and all of the misjustice that we've seen, I was pointing out through the whole fucking 2.5 years. More than that. And everybody wanted to, was he innocent or is he guilty? He did this, Pavarotti, this guy did it, that guy did it, this guy did it, that guy did it. Oh, look at this picture. Someone's peeing on Ethan. Look at the reflection off the moon. Holy fuck, what a bunch of fucking razzled fucking brained motherfuckers are out here, man. And let me say, I'm talking about not the creators, but the fuckers that participate in those fucking those feeds and those streams. Are you out of your fucking mind? What's wrong with you people? Look at this picture on the cell phone. Oh, isn't that a dead girl sitting on the bed over there? Look, I blew up the cell phone image. Look what I see. Holy fuck. What about the unlawful allegations in a probable cause affidavit? What about the unlawful collections of information that aren't even a part of the case? They don't even make the case whole. They didn't even fucking unlawfully make arguments and statements and accusations that had any basis of fact. They're arguing about a white car that more than likely had nothing to do with the fucking crime. So at this point, the kid admitted to it. He admitted to driving there. He admitted that. And so, in my opinion, it's all that can be said has been said on that case. Right? You want to do something for Brian Koberger, go to bed and pray he comes back and wants to withdraw his plea of guilty. That he's got new representation. That Ann Taylor's invited to go home and stay home. That's what you can pray for. And if he doesn't do that, then you got to walk away from this and find something else. Well, her argument's going to be he did it. He admitted to me he did it. She can't even come out and tell people that publicly. It's just insane, man. All of that noise, all of that chaos, all of that bullshit. I should have got a law degree and went to Idaho and represented that guy. These pleas are a hard hurdle to jump. Yeah, they are. You're not going to get out of that. He's cooked. He's made his bed. He's got to sleep in it. We should now take our fucking sandbox, take our toys, and just go somewhere else. Fuck Brian Koberger. I mean, that motherfucker cooked himself, and that's just the way it is. And like I said, a fact is a fact is a fact. You don't have to like it. It don't even have to be true, but it's a fact. Brian Koberger admitted to committing this crime. None of the other questions are even relevant. None of the other questions even have a place in reality anymore. Unless you believe they do. I believe it. I believe it. And that's the problem. You have to refuse to allow yourself to believe in any data or information that's derived from mankind. It has to be verifiable. It has to be repeatable. And that's it. And if it can't be, then you just move on and you don't accept it. I think Steve G needs a fucking slap. Steve G. Fucking douchebag. He's crying because nobody's going to be murdered. That's his complaint. Deep down inside, he wanted to see somebody shot to death. That sycophant motherfucker. God forbid his daughter was taken away. That's terrible. But that doesn't justify his kind of sycophant fucking reality. I wouldn't spit on that guy if he was on fire. Fuck, I'd stand next to him, piss the other way, and laugh at him. You fucking sicko. He's angry because someone ain't going to get shot for this crime. That's what he's angry about. He was the perpetrator of putting Brian in this position. He was the main propagandist for the federal fucking and state governments, that fucking jerk off. Everything he told us was a lie. And he never, ever corrected it. His whole motive is he wants somebody killed, eye for an eye. He's probably part of that crazy fucking church down there. Fuck that Steve G. And the horse he rides. Fucking jerk off. He helped create this reality. And now he's got to live with it. And God forbid this isn't the guy that actually killed his daughter. Now what? Steve G. You sycophant motherfucker. Really? You should have kept your mouth shut and been a decent human being like the other parents. Why couldn't you do that? No. You had to get onto the fucking news media and onto YouTube with every fucking chance you had to tell the whole world this kid's guilty. It's undeniable. All the evidence is in. Ay, ay, ay. Now you get what you got. And now you got to live with that. So go live with it. And just shut up and get off the fucking internet and go home. Put your tail between your legs and go sit down, you alpha male. What kind of an alpha male does what he did? He had the fucking facts. He chose to dispel those facts to the public as facts to prove Brian's unequivocal guilt. He knows there's no image tying that car to Brian, other than it being a white Elantra. So what? What if somebody drove the same year, make, model, color Range Rover and was a drug dealer, and they arrested his kid for that? How would that sit with that fucking dude? It wouldn't. Would he be running around? Would he be okay with people running around saying his daughter is a criminal? He was the main driver of propaganda. He should have kept his mouth shut. He should have questioned what needed to be questioned. okay, to defend his daughter's honor. If you're telling me that that car belongs to Brian, show me that car is Brian's. Show me a single image that places Brian in the car, an image of Brian getting in or out of the car. Show me Brian and that car being connected to being the car that you're showing in those videos. Show me proof. Don't tell me a fucking story. You tell me there's multiple samples of DNA at the crime scene, but you leave out the point that none of it belonged to Brian. But that's not the way Steve portrayed it to the public. Steve's portrayal of the additional DNA was to attack people that had a problem with transfer DNA. All these people that think they're experts about DNA and the touch DNA, there's plenty of DNA at that crime scene. You'll see. And none of it belonged to Brian, Steve. You help frame a guy when the true criminals are probably still running around out there. Or the true criminal is going to sit in jail the rest of his life and not face the fucking bullet from a gun that you want. So no matter how you slice it, Steve, you fucked yourself. You didn't do any justice for your daughter. One way or the other, it didn't work out for you, buddy. And that there's something to be said about silence is golden. And Steve G won't learn that lesson because Steve G, to the last breath in his body, won't shut the fuck up about all of this. We'll see what evidence they have, but based on what we heard Bill Thompson say, there's not going to be any further evidence that is going to seal the deal on Brian being the perpetrator. I don't think there's going to be any. I hope there is. Let me just say that, believe it or not, I hope that they have something that lays to rest and denies any doubt that Brian did this. I really hope so. Right? I mean, that would be awesome. If I were the judge, I'd say, well, look, I'd like to know where the fucking murder weapon went before I'll accept a plea. This plea can only be accepted if he could show us where the murder weapon is. This can only be accepted if he does this or that. This can only be accepted if he can show us that he could have only been the only person at home and these other DNA samples weren't part of the same crime he was in. If I were a judge, I wouldn't accept a plea as stated. That's something Hitler can also do. I need these fucking squares turned into circles of logic. Where's the knife? Show us what you did with the knife. Physically take us and show us what you did with that knife. Period. End of story. Explain to us exactly what happened that night in the exact order to which you can recall and lay the events out of what happened in that home in exactly every location that you were present in that home. Because the crime scene is just a confusing clusterfuck of disinformation. The 8-hour delay is a clusterfuck. There's so many things that are fucked in this case that for that judge to accept that stupid fucking statement that Koberger gave and just sign off on it is more information. It's just probably a cover-up of something much larger that we'll never know about. And you're never going to know about it by listening to Pavarotti or the fucking bumbly fucking water fucking idiots or the Judes or the fucking these fucking channels that have all these answers. You know? I hope they do have evidence that places him in that house. But I don't understand how Thompson didn't make that argument when he was telling the judge what happened that time. I'm sorry. I just, it's shocking to me that nothing beyond what was in the PCA was anything that he had to share to the court. That don't make no fucking sense to me. And again, I would accept that plea as written. So long Brian fills in details that only the killer could know. Because there's more to this crime than we know. And I think that's what part of those sealed hearings were. No, he had no smoking gun. And I would like, at least for the public at large, to be given a smoking gun, such as, what did you do with the knife? Where's the knife? Where did you dispose of the knife? It's possible he didn't. And I've said this all along. I never argued for his innocence. I argued that the evidence never reached beyond a reasonable doubt. But there's also the acknowledgement that there are sealed hearings and sealed orders and sealed motions, and in them there may be something. But this is what I'm afraid you're going to find is none of that will be unsealed because it's all about what the FBI did and didn't do, and that the government protected the government, and that the government's going to protect the government if Idaho is going to cover for the federal government's involvement in this case. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. If not that, then obviously something in those sealed documents was a hill that they would die on. Koberger knew they would die on that hill, and so he took the plea. But enough about the plea. I'm glad I was able to come on. Got me a few peoples to come in, few peeps. Let me see, what do we get for likes in here? Not that it matters. I mean, likes do get me in the algorithm. It does expose my channel to people that may not know that I exist, but none of that matters as far as monetization or anything like that. That's not a part of my stream. I often wonder if I monetized, if that would be what do you call it? If that would actually make the stream more popular. Maybe YouTube would want to share it more. I don't know, but who cares? I think we got just under 3,000 followers or subscribers, and that's quite a bit of people to pay attention to a lunatic like me. If you really think about it, there's 3,000 maniacs out there, or very close to it. And we do get usually, because I combine X and I combine YouTube, I do get 100 to 200 followers or subscribers in here on every stream. And that's kind of nice. So, all right, folks, I want to say, it's been fun. I'm glad I came out. It's been an hour and 46 minutes. It's been interesting. It's been cool. Nobody clicked on the link. Dago said he would come by, but he didn't. And yeah, that's fine. They have actual video and they have his DNA all over that house and confession. He wrote it in a letter to his dad. Also that he's paparazzis. Well, I don't know why you would believe any of that. If you think that that's possible, that's great. But wait for that to come out to be a fact. That's part of believing in anything. That's just, I don't know how people don't realize the significance of belief. Belief is your most powerful ally or your most powerful enemy against yourself and being able to learn. Never believe anything. You think that they might have video. I think they might have his DNA, and I'll have to wait and see what comes forward. But that's the way. I mean, there's a distinction between think and believe, and if the distinction is wide as the universe is wide. So I just want to end with that and let people know. Don't feel attacked or targeted. Man, that people using that word belief, you don't realize what abuses you're making in the reality of existence by using your belief when applied to human situations. So anyway, folks, let me think. Came back when BNK was in jail. Then I appreciate everyone that's been in here. I tell you once, I'll tell you twice, I'll tell you 3 times. Be good or be bad. But if you're going to be bad, don't get caught. Have yourselves a good night. We'll see you again soon. I agree with me, myself, and I think they do have evidence we haven't seen. It'll be interesting to see it.